This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for Avoid the Maze, your journey through life. And we're all on that journey. And I'll tell you, if your life is anything like mine, you can plan all you want, but there are going to be days that, guess what? Your journey is going to take that fork in the road. You're going to go in a different direction. And that's okay. We recommend that you remain mindful and understand where you're going and why you're going in those directions. My guest today is Paul Zolman, Role of Love. Role of Love. What does that mean, Paul? I love it on this day. It's cold and snowy here in Cleveland, Ohio, and love can make you warm and cuddly. So give us a little bit of background.
Thank you, Karen. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you for the invitation. Role of Love actually is just a dice that I created that has the love languages on it. Each side has a different picture of it of the love language, including I've got time, service, the words, touch, and then gifts. 5 love languages, 6 sides on the cube. The last side is surprise me. So for the role of love, what you do, Karen, is you just practice it every single day. There's just 2 instructions. You roll the dice every day. Whatever it lands on, that is the love language you practice giving away all day that day. And it really was a problem solver for me, Karen, more than anything. I came to that block in the road, as you do in a maze. You get to a block and say, this obviously is not the path out. This, how do I back up a little bit, get a perspective of where you're at in the maze, and then start again. And so that's what I was doing. It was I had to back up and say, well, what am I doing that's wrong? What is it, or what adjective might describe my behavior at this time? And I decided on a spectrum because I grew up in a family, Karen, that was really kind of very dysfunctional. There was what I call an angry culture. I wanted to move from that angry culture to a more loving culture. So from anger to love would be the spectrum for me. When I described where I was on that, all the things that I could describe were more toward the angry side of it. I was critical. That's on the angry side of it. When I say I was a critical, I would be annoyed at what other people were doing and say, "Why are you doing that? What's wrong with you?" And it's just being critical in that way, thinking that I could make decisions for them, for their life, that would benefit their life, trying to move them on my path, which was, of course, such a happy path. To be a critic is such a happy path. It's not that way. But I was thinking that I knew better than what they did. And I realized that part of that angry culture I grew up in, Karen, was one of the rules was that there were no rules, there were no boundaries,
Right.
and I needed to draw those lines. And so I realized that I need to move away from that critical nature and become more loving. As I start rolling the die, now I'm watching for what's right about that person. What can I love about that person? And it's an about face. It's 180 degrees from where I was before. I needed that change in my life. I created the role of love.
Well, and you talked about something that is so specific that most of us don't even realize, but we grow up in a family that may believe they're very loving and very open and very receptive, but their language doesn't come across that way. And so we pick up on that and we go on with our life, and people look at us a little strangely sometimes, like, why would you say that? Why would you think that? And that becomes judgmental on their part as well as on ours, because what don't you like about me? And I think we have to start looking at each other and saying, it's okay that you're you, Paul. It's okay that you feel the way you do, but it's okay that I feel the way that I do as well. And that shouldn't be such a hard way to live, because as little kids, we play with each other and we don't always think the same. So what was it that finally made you realize that, hey, I've got to make a change, and you came up with this cube, which I think is phenomenal. I mean, you're gonna have to tell us how we can buy this cube, because I think many of us would love to roll the dice every day and say, okay, this is what I'm gonna work on today.
Good question, Karen. And I think that it probably, I had this same habit that my father had, and my brother had the same habit. And I think it was a generational habit that really was, as I dialed it down, really came at the cause of all this angst that I had in my life, not wanting to be so negative. And it came out with a goal. I don't want to be angry. And it's like a double negative, Karen. It works in math. If you multiply two negative numbers together, you actually find a positive number.
Right.
It doesn't work in relationships, though. And it wasn't working for me at all. What I found myself doing was I was stacking anger or stacking annoyance on top of annoyance on top of annoyance on top of annoyance until I get to the top. I couldn't stand it anymore. I had this flash of anger. And then I'd have the flash, I'd go back down, start stacking annoyances, have the flash, go back down. That was cyclic for me, something I wanted to stop that cycle. How do you change a cycle like that? How do you change traditions of the fathers of your ancestors, your immediate father or your grandfather? How do you change those traditions and not betray your family? And even if it's okay that they think that it's okay to insult one another, and that's part of the family tradition, it's not okay. It's really not okay. Find something better to do. So I realized that, but it took me 23 and a half years of marriage. And part of this anger that I had actually was my contribution to the divorce. And it just, so here I am now all alone. Well, I have actually primary custody of 5 children. And it just, after a few years, my ex-wife wanted the children back, wanted custody. There were 3 children left. And so I relinquished primary custody. Now I'm all alone. In that alone state, I'm dating and I finally find someone that I like. I'm number 10 of 11 children, Karen. So always I have to have big brother, big sister approval. And so this was that time. So as I'm dating, getting serious with this lady, it's time for big brother approval. And I take her 300 miles north of where I live. And first thing that happens when we go in the house is my sister-in-law pulls her aside and says this: the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up was anger. I heard her say that, and at first I denied it, said, and it made me mad. And I thought, I just verified exactly what she said. And I realized at that moment, Karen, that either I change that or I continue with what she says and continue validating. I thought, I've got to change this. I've got to change that perception. Because if she, being as close as a sister-in-law, has a perception, what do the other people around me have of a perception of the Zolman family? I wanted to change that perception, totally change it. That we're not an angry family. We want to be loving. We're trying, but we just needed some more tools. So thinking that education might be a piece that I was missing, and it is. I started reading the color code, and it worked a little bit. But then I stumbled across the 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. Started reading that. I read it 4 or 5 times. I love the principles. I didn't get the application. You mean, Dr. Chapman, that if I guess what Karen's love language is and I cater to that, we're going to be buddies? Well, I'm a bad guesser, Karen. It's not likely to be happening.
Right.
And it wasn't happening up until that point in my life. Well, the second thing that Dr. Chapman has in his book says, well, if you take this survey, you can find out what your love language is. Well, Dr. Chapman, what the heck am I supposed to do with that? Advertise? Hello, Karen. I'm gifts. What do you have for me today? And it's so awkward. We don't have to do awkward anymore. So I thought, Dr. Chapman, well, I thought, even as dysfunctional as our family was growing up, games brought us together. So I thought, well, maybe I can make this a game, and learned the love languages in that way. So I contacted Dr. Chapman because he didn't have it as a game. Contacted him, asked, are you licensing those little icons, the little pictures that you have for each one of the love languages? They were dated. From his book was first published in 1992, so quite dated. And he wrote back, excuse me, his attorney wrote back, said, no, we're not doing that right now at all. But I had an attorney friend, excuse me, in my neighborhood, and that attorney friend was a copyright attorney. And he said this, he said, theory like the love language theory is not copyrightable. Application is. I'm sorry, I got a tickle in my throat. So with that, I made my own little icons and created the dice. And that's how I came up with the dice. And that was just a simple thing. Sometimes the most simple things, the most simple turns in a maze, Karen, can get you to where you need to be. For this, it was perfect for me. The 2 seconds or less that it takes to invest in yourself every single day, to roll the dice at the beginning of the day, sets the theme or sets a mantra for the day.
Sure.
This is how I'm going to love all day today. So as I'm rolling the dice and getting the genre of the love language that I'm sending out all day that day, what I'm watching for is for people that light up. When they light up, I've discovered what their primary or secondary love language is. Karen, no longer do you have to say, excuse me, could we pause this relationship for a moment? Well, I have you take this survey so I know how to love you. You don't have to do awkward anymore, like I said. This solves the problem. So you just watch, and as you're practicing that love language all day that day to everybody, not just significant others, very, very different than what Dr. Chapman has suggested. I was single when I created it. I didn't have a significant other. So I said, Dr. Chapman, who in the heck am I supposed to love? And I just realized, oh, I get to love everybody. It was perfect for what I needed because I needed that consistency of a habit to replace what I was doing before, to replace that old tradition of being critical of everybody to now watching for what's right with everybody. I needed that consistency, and it worked well for me. In over a day's period of time, you'll light up maybe 3 to 10 people. You'll make their day. When you make their day, you feel great satisfaction that you helped someone on their way. But when you're sending the love out, you're sending it out without any expectation of it ever coming back. Dr. Chapman was right when he said that most people have a primary love language and they send that out in hopes that'll come back. I don't believe that reciprocity is love. That's a business transaction. And transactions, if you want a business in your marriage, that's what you can do. It doesn't work. It really doesn't work. Send it out without any regard of it coming back, but trust the laws of the universe that were in place before you or I were ever born. The law of the harvest, karma, or the law of attraction, all kind of say the same thing, that whatever you send out is going to come back to you after many days. Trust that, and it'll come back to you.
You know, you are so spot on to the things that changed me a little over 10 years ago. I was brought up in a home that was loving, but was loud. Okay. Everybody had to talk over everybody, but everybody then apologized and would hug and would kiss. And it'd be like, and my head was always in confusion. It was like, but you just yelled at me, but now you're telling me you love me. But so I always was waiting for that hug or the word love. But I realized something that my father's mother taught me, and that was just be good to everybody. Take care of everybody. Well, I became this caregiver. Okay. I made sure when my father walked in the house after a long day of work, he was happy. I made sure that I did things for my mother and my brothers. But I finally realized maybe about 10, 11 years ago, I'm making everybody happy. And I'm seeing their smiles. And sometimes that helps me. But it wasn't helping me enough. I was missing something. So until I could dig deep, and that's how Avoid the Maze got started, I realized I kept bumping up against a wall. And I wasn't looking to the left or to the right. I wasn't looking behind me. I just figured, this is all I deserve. But that one day I woke up and was like, no, I deserve more than this. I can still be nice to everybody. but I don't have to expect it in return. And now when I get it back, those are the special moments. Those are the people who belong in my life. Not that the other people don't, but they're not important enough to me to go running after them to make them smile, to make them happy. They have to choose to receive.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Karen. And as you're rolling the die and giving this away, what you're doing over a 30-day period is that you're learning all 5 love languages. This improves your literacy level of love. So most people can only see, as Dr. Chapman mentioned, most people can only see what they like, and that they give that away in hopes that it'll come back. This actually provides you a peripheral vision. You can see, oh, they're loving on me. It's not my primary love language, but it gives you the power to respond to that by learning all 5 love languages. Increase that level, increase your value of knowing all the love languages, educate yourself to get to know them all by giving it away. Then you can respond and receive it as it comes back to you. Insults aren't part of that. And one of the things that I learned in doing that spectrum is the other day, Karen, I was out walking and found a walking stick. It's about 3.5 feet tall, just the perfect size. And all the bark was gone from it. One side is just very, very nice and smooth, but the other side just has some little pokes on it right here, the little knots on it.
Yeah.
I call this the naughty side of the stick, and this is the nice side of the stick. So on the naughty side of the stick would be the anger, on the nice side of the stick would be the love. When you realize whatever behavior you're having is on the naughty side of the stick, like the insults, I had somebody tell me that insulting is love in our family. It's not. It's still on the naughty side of the stick. Sarcasm is not love. It's naughty. It's on the naughty side of the stick. It's anger. It's just a cousin to anger. Anger management has that line in the movie that says, well, that sarcasm is just an ugly cousin of anger.
Yes.
And so when you take the word sarcastic and you try to determine what would be the opposite of that, you come up with words like, well, instead of sarcastic, be genuine, be authentic. Now, when you put those words on the table, what are you going to choose? Most people are going to choose that they want to be genuine. They want to be authentic. They're going to move to that loving side of the stick, that loving side of the spectrum. I believe that we can use that same activity of defining what is the action that we're doing right now, put an adjective to it, find out what the opposite is, and then determine which direction do you want to go. And you can improve yourself, improve your loving abilities and your ability to receive love by doing those actions, finding out what the opposite, move toward the loving end of the stick.
So you say this is a 30-day program. It takes you 30 days to change the habits. Is that it?
No. I don't mean to say that at all. And within a 30-day period, of rolling the die, you will have gone through all 5 love languages and learned them by giving it away. That's all. And that learning of those the 5 love languages improves your ability to see it when it comes your way. That's all I'm saying. I copyrighted this, Karen, in 2017. And since that time, I've rolled the die. Actually, one of the prototypes was a huge block of wood that I had. You can see how sharp the edges are.
Yep.
Well, that just the whole first prototype kind of described what my character was like. I had sharp edges. When you have anger, those are sharp edges. And I had to, it would roll really clunky. I almost could choose that, well, this is what I want. I know it's going to go clunk, clunk, clunk 3 times or clunk, clunk, clunk 4 times, whatever it was. I could make it a weighted die. And if that's what I wanted to practice that day, that's what I could roll. Just because I know that the sharp edges would dig into the floor or the carpet and it wouldn't roll very well. So I had to whittle off the edges and then use that for a couple of years until I had all the artwork done for my own icons and was able to produce it in the 1 inch by 1 inch cube that I've got right now. So there is a process, and it's a learning curve that you're going to learn all 5 love languages. Most people having that one primary love language, to learn 4 more seems daunting. It's just a little bit of learning curve, but it should be pretty easy. I've got a lot of suggestions on my website of what you could do for whatever you rolled on that particular day. And it's not anything, it's not rocket science, it's not anything complicated at all. Something that you could do as you become more familiar and more at ease giving away all 5 love languages. That's when you have that knowledge base, that literacy level that I'm talking about, that will help you in seeing love coming your way, whether or not it's your primary or your default love language or not.
So what I'm hearing is, it's something that I've been writing about recently. It's all about really changing our habits, changing our thinking. We know that we want to be happy. We know that we want to give and receive love, but sometimes we don't understand what that means. And using that cube and following your exercises, it gives us this path, and it says, well, these are some of your choices. And, is this what you want? Or do you want to revert back to that other place that you were in? And when I think about that, I know that because of my thinking and my upbringing, that caused my divorce from my first husband. I know it as plain as day today.
Mhm.
Didn't know it back then, didn't know it for many years. But when I started making these changes about 10 years ago, it was like, I was always just trying to make him happy, never told him what would make me happy. And so it was all about giving him love, but it wasn't coming really from inside. It was just this stuff that was floating around me that I was handing out.
Mm.
Now I find I meet people on the street and I talk to them and I feel good about it.
Mhm.
I don't wait to find out if they feel good. I mean, I'm talking to them, but I don't ask them, hey, did I make your day today? Doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is I know what I did, and boy, that felt good. And if you want to receive that from me, it's all yours.
Yeah, and this is all about, Karen, about who you are. No longer am I trying to peek over the fence, look at other people's lives, look at their decision making, criticize their decision making, thinking I can live their life better than they could. And it's totally ridiculous to try to even think that. Trying to focus. And one of the things that was really, really important for me is that I can't bid someone to love me. Even if I tell them what I like, it's almost, if I told them what I like, it almost becomes duty bound, or they have to, there's an expectation there. You don't want to even go there, because if you do that, and Dr. Chapman kind of inadvertently created this, well, I told you how to love me, why aren't you doing it? You get to that whiny voice, and who wants that whiny voice? Nobody wants to hear that. So what I try to teach is that you watch them, you use your observation skills to be able to watch what lights people up. In fact, there's a couple I tested this dice with here in my community, Karen, that she took the test and said in that box that in the survey, put her in the box that she loved service more than anything. The husband tells me that, well, I'm helping her, I'm washing the car, I'm vacuuming the carpet, I'm helping with the laundry, I'm helping with the kids, I'm washing the dishes, I'm doing all these things. She's still not happy. He started with the dice, and as he's rolling the dice, one day he happens upon the words. So now he's complimenting her. He's telling her that he loves her. Now what's happening is she's like lighting up. She's starting to respond to that, and he realizes, oh, it's not service at all. It's those words that she needs. And so the survey can be skewed. If you're taking a survey, sometimes you'll answer it differently
Right.
than any other way. but your body language is a better read on what your love language is than anything else. That's why the power of this dice, the 2 seconds investment that it takes in yourself each day, is going to bring great returns. You're watching how people react to what you say or what you do. And then it doesn't matter whether you make their day. When they get excited and when they light up, you obviously have made their day. That's something that even if they don't say that you made my day, you know that you're helping them on their way. You've made a happy moment for them. Many people will remember that happy moment and how they felt at that happy moment more than they'll remember any words you said or anything else that you did. They'll remember those happy moments. That's what we're looking for. We're trying to help people have more happy moments and trying to make the world a better place. I'm testing this right now in a school system, Karen.
Okay.
And in the school system, I'm doing K-6 right now. So in the school system, the teacher rolls or picks a student to roll the dice at the beginning of the day. Takes less than 2 seconds. I know that the classrooms are really at times constraints. There's a lot of stuff to do in the classroom. The teacher may take 30 to 45 seconds to explain, class, this is the type of love we're sending out today. This is what it looks like. They go through the day. At the end of the day, I put together a journal page that says, this is what we rolled. These are opportunities we saw to love in that way. And this is what we did about those opportunities. It becomes a love journal. More than that, Karen, it actually becomes an accountability moment for that child. I've talked with teachers around the world, Karen. Every teacher without any exception say that the last 10 to 15 minutes of the school day is non-productive. The kids are tired. They've been trying to learn all day. Their minds are mush.
Right.
They don't want one more thing. The best thing for that is a decompression activity. Journal writing is that. Journal writing is one of those decompression activities that can finally let go of all that they had during the day, write a little bit about it, but it becomes a reporting system for that child. How did I love that day? What did we roll the dice for? What opportunities did I see to love? And how did I do it that day? The teacher will briefly read through them. If she finds a good story, she may want to keep that over for the next day and read it in front of the class as part of that 1 minute introduction of the love language of the day. Just encourage other children to say, this is the type of love language or reporting that we're looking for. Over the school year, what happens, the teacher does a check mark, sends the paper home with the child. The astute parents will categorize those, keep them in chronological order, possibly bind them at the end of the school year. And now what you've got a journal for that first grader or that third grader or that fourth grader, fifth grader. You've got a journal for that year. Absolutely would have loved, Karen, to have a journal for my first grade class. I loved my first grade teacher. I remember her name to this day. I don't remember second, third, fourth, or fifth. I do remember sixth, but I remember that first grade teacher. She was absolutely so loving. The contrast from what I grew up in and my home life versus that school life made me love school. I loved going to school because it was different. It was loving. That teacher was very loving. I wish I had a journal for that moment. I wish I had a journal for my mother or my grandmother. Instead, Karen, guess what I have? I have a journal about the weather. The weather 60 years ago.
Oh.
Who cares what the weather was like 60 years ago? Tell me what there was to love and what you did about it.
So much knowledge that we all have that we need to get it out. You know, we think we don't know how to love. I've talked to young people recently, you know, millennials who are saying, you know, you can't find somebody to love today. You too much technology and, you know, dating apps and whatever. And my comment is then go away from that. Get out with humanity. Okay. Be the person that you want to be. I've been talking to my youngest son about this, and for years he'd go out and he was being somebody else because he thought that's what everybody wanted. And now he's finally gotten to the point, he says, you know what? I'm me. I like me. And people are gravitating to him. Okay.
Mhm.
So he's not rolling the dice per se, but he isn't to some degree, because when he wakes up in the morning, he makes that conscious effort that I'm going to be my best self. And it doesn't mean I have to dress like you, talk like you, think like you. And I will tell you, those are things that we tried teaching him when he was younger, but he pushed us away because we want to be like everybody else, or at least we think we do. So let me ask you, when your sister-in-law brought this up, here you are with, a woman that you're, dating, and she voices, that you really have anger. How did that make you feel, and how did that result in your relationship?
A great question. Actually, I felt embarrassed, obviously embarrassed, and I was, you had mentioned just now that your son, people are gravitating toward your son because he is unique, and we all are very unique in our own way. But I was repelling people, and so it was like that guy in the swimming pool that has the accident. Everybody's running away from that person, saying, "It wasn't me, wasn't me, wasn't me," and then that person's left all alone. I was that guy. So I didn't want to be that person anymore. And I thought, what can I do to even draw this woman closer to me rather than repel her? How would I do that? And obviously I was learning too little, too late. And we did get married, but it also ended up just 4 years later in a divorce. And I just realized that I still need to work on myself. I still need to just raise the level of loving that I do to the level I want to receive back. If reciprocity is what it works, how love works, and it kind of in some way it does. There are some things that are transactional, but you want to get past the transaction part of love. You want to get to the point that you're doing kindness on top of kindness on top of kindness, stair stepping, using these love languages to stair step to the higher laws of love, like charity or compassion or intimacy or forgiveness or mercy or trust. Any of those are higher laws of love, and you want to stair step to get to that point. And so I went back to the drawing board to try to improve myself to that level that I'd be able to attract someone, the law of attraction again, to attract someone that would be at that higher level. And it worked. I mean, it absolutely worked for me. So I think that's the key to all this is really try to keep improving yourself to a level that you are genuine and authentic in sending the love out without any expectation, but knowing it's going to come back someday. I realized, Karen, that as I send anger out, it comes back right away. It
Right.
comes back like a boomerang with velocity that after you throw a boomerang and it goes up, it has a whole lot more velocity when it comes back down because of the gravity and everything else. Try to catch that thing. And it's just a really very, very difficult to do that. And you don't, I realized I was doing that a lot. I was sending out that anger a lot. Didn't want to do it anymore. Try to send the love out and then watch as it starts to come back in. That you'll get, you're not looking for a return on that investment, but you will receive that return on that investment. Whatever you send out is going to come back. Send the love out.
I think the more we improve ourselves for our own sake, not necessarily for anybody else, we start to love ourselves. And when you have self-love, it's not conceited love like I grew up believing, it's just a true compassion for yourself to live your most authentic life. And that's what draws people to you, and my husband has said in the last 10 years, the change he has seen in me has been incredible. And I said, so what? My first reaction when he said that the first time was, so what was wrong with me before? But I caught myself and was like, no, I know what was wrong with me before. Okay. I was not believing I deserved the love that I was getting. And so I just kept throwing the love back out there, but I was throwing it out with anger.
Hmm.
And the day that I finally realized that was the day when I questioned him. And it was like, oh, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to question this anymore. Now he's one that, love language is his thing. He's, if he could tell me 1,000,000 times during the day that he loved me, he's going to.
Hmm.
Sometimes I look at him like, I don't want to hear it again, but I realize that's important for him. And so I receive it and I accept it. My love language to him is different. It's more of touch in doing things for him. And yet we've been together 40 plus years and we know that it's not easy, and love is not an easy thing. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Absolutely is worth it. And I really like that you're focused on improving you, improving who you are, improving the love that you send out, improving your reactions to whatever comes your way. That is your lane. And as I realize that, that's the boundaries that we should have as individuals. We should have that boundary that we're just sending it out just because we can, just because that's what we have control over, is to be able to send the love out. And and we have control over our response when it comes our way. But we've got to improve that response factor. I mean, it seems easier to be able to send it out in a lot of different ways, but we also need to have that balance in our system, be able to receive it when it comes our way and just acknowledge it. So the way you're acknowledging your husband's telling you and his expression of love to you in that way is maybe it's not your primary love, maybe it's not exactly what you like, but you can see he's loving on you. That's where we need to get to that point where we can see all the love languages, see how they're expressed by different people, and respond to that in that way. And maybe when you send love out to your husband, you'll see him light up for different things as well. And maybe it's words, or maybe it's not. A lot of people think, and Dr. Chapman had indicated this too, that people send out what they like, hoping to get it back. My love language isn't like that. I like to send out service. I like to send out words, and sometimes I like to do the touch, the high five, the fist bump. But what I like to get back is words. Words is what I feel like my primary love language is. But I really am learning that I like to send it all out. I'm learning. I've expanded the repertoire from the die and from rolling the die and practicing. I've expanded that repertoire of what I send out, and just love to watch how people react. Love to watch what really lights them up, and it's almost addicting, Karen, to watch people light up. It's so much fun to help people lift them on their way. You can't sit at home and expect love to come your way. You're gonna be very sad and very lonely. You can get out of your house, get out of your chair, go out outside the house, walk your neighborhood. I can guarantee there's pain under every household. Find that pain. You'll find somebody that's a little bit lower, feeling down, a little bit lower than you are that particular day, and you can lift them up. And then it relieves your pain. That's the magic of this. We're trying to, it's almost counterintuitive that we're giving it away, but actually it's relieving our own pain. We're giving that love away. It reduces our pain, or it mitigates that pain, so we feel better after we've done that.
It is wonderful. So how can my listeners find you and get your workbook and get the dice and start rolling the dice for better love?
Good question, Karen. Thank you very much. I did a play on words with that. You roll the dice outside of you, ROLL. the name of the company is Role of Love, ROLE, which is the change that happens within. ROLE of love.com is where they can find. I've got a book, got the dice, I've got the journal. I've got them on sale right now. All three of them you can buy for $29.99. It's a whole lot less than one therapy session, and it's going to last you a whole lot longer than that. Invest in yourself. If you're not interested in becoming more loving, this isn't for you. And you can't look at other people and say, oh, I think that my wife's husband or my daughter's husband is going to be this, they're going to like this. You can't do intervention for this. It's not going to work that way. People that use this, Karen, have to have a genuine concern about their loving abilities and a desire to improve them, to change that way. It won't work unless they do that. So they have to have that criteria. Don't waste your money if you don't feel like you want to improve your love life. But if you do want to improve your love life, this tool absolutely will work for you.
You know, I'm so glad you said that, because I have a mother, not my mother, but a mother of a potential client who keeps telling her son that he should come to me for coaching. And he reached out to me and he said, why? And I said, you tell me why. Do you want to go through coaching? Is there something you want to change? And he said, well, yeah, I think so, but I don't want to do it for my mother. And I said, that's fine. And whether I'm the coach for you, it doesn't make any difference. Okay. We can find you another coach, but you have to want to do it for you. You have to be saying, I'm going to invest in this to make whatever that change is, big or small. And he said, you know, I'm glad you said that. He said, because, yeah, my mother put the bug in my ear, but I want to make sure when I make that decision, it's for me and not for her. And I was ecstatic that he actually heard that. Yes, he knows he's got to make some changes. And, you know, this may be the change. This may be a different way that he does it. And that's why I say to all my listeners, there's so many opportunities out there. You got to search for them. You got to find the one that fits you. And this one absolutely fits me. So I'm going to follow through on it. We're going to put all your information in the show notes. So there's no reason for people not to find you. And thanks for sharing your love with me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's been delightful to be with you today, Karen. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. Have a great day now. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.